Oh,
well,
good morning. This is Leo Kane.
You think I'm not paying attention, and I am.
I thought you were just trying to get the Facebook Live going, and I wanted to make everyone think that Katrina was out for yet another week, and this is the Leo Kane 2 hours.
Stop it. Listen, all right, so I'm just going to say it because people do ask me. They're like, where have you been? You haven't been on the air in 2 weeks. So they listen. As a matter of fact, one of our clients signed a listing agreement with us last night.
A listening agreement?
Listing agreement with us.
I love listening agreements. Does that mean they only listen to your show, or what is the listening agreement?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Leo, they told me specifically they tune out when it's only you. Just saying. Just kidding.
Oh.
Anyway, no, thank you so much. Actually, I owe you a big, big thank you because 2 weeks ago, I actually lost one of my childhood friends, and it was a really rough night for me. I was up really late, and I really just couldn't make it into the studio the next day. So I appreciate you very, very much, Leo, for holding down the fort. And last week, I was in Austin for Keller Williams' big mega camp conference.
Well, I didn't even have to show up last week. Our host could have had their own hour, and no one would have noticed.
Yes, well, he did not Facebook Live. That's all me. So if I'm not here, that doesn't happen.
Go up.
So anyway, without further ado, we have a great show lined up for you guys today. So today is no disaster, so you have no disaster. And we'll talk all about that in just a few minutes right after we introduce our guest. So the purpose of the show today is really just to spread some awareness on how to prepare as we have some of these storm seasons that can roll in. We're right in the beginning. We haven't seen anything yet. And I think as we have those great years back to back with no storms, people can get a little bit complacent and think, oh, I don't need a generator. I don't need any water. I don't need any flashlights. So we're going to talk about a little bit of all of those things as we roll on today's show. So if I mess up your name, please correct me. But I have Miss Laura Wilcoxen.
Correct.
It's right. All right. She is the Emergency Management Assistant Director for Pasco County.
That's right.
And we'll talk about what that means in a few minutes. And then we have a friend of the show, Corey Dierdorff. He is Pasco County Fire Rescue Public Information Officer. It's funny, after I had you on, I see you like on TV. I see you everywhere now.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. How are you?
So you get to do all the fun stuff, right? And like appear in media and all those jazzy things.
I do. I get to represent a great department who has over 600 great firefighters that are out there every day serving the county.
And we had I didn't realize this, but the last time we had you on was Christmas. We did our holiday show.
Yeah.
And so we talk all about the holiday lights and some of those hazards you guys see around the holiday time. So we'll do something similar but different maybe this year.
Absolutely.
And, of course, Mr. Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection, my sidekick. And also Francisco Diaz. He is with Heaven Sent Construction. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
We're glad to have you here very much. And so we're going to talk a little bit about you guys and then talk about some of the stuff you do. So let's tell the person listening real quick, what do you do? Explain your job. Who's an ideal person for you? Laura?
No, emergency management, we're here to basically help and coordinate disaster response activities. So the best way I could describe what emergency management does is if you think of a musical orchestra, you have all these different musical instruments playing the same song, same page, same tempo, but you have a conductor up there trying to keep everybody together.
So explain what that means. For example, if we have a storm roll through,
right? So
we have to be prepared for that. What are you doing? What's your job?
When the county activates and gets ready for a disaster, we're always prepared 24/7, 365. We're monitoring situations so that way we can start early, start making protective actions. So when we know a storm's coming, Pasco County experiences a lot of flooding. So we're working with our stormwater department, we're working with fire rescue to check out our areas that are known to be the highest hazard to those flood operations.
Right.
We're constantly talking to the state to get information from their weather spotters to find out what's going to happen.
Right. So I have a little bit of inside knowledge of this just because my husband works for the city of Tampa. He works for stormwater, and so he deals with those things. So what we call our first responders, right? Like everybody knows police and fire are first responders, but you have people like stormwater and Department of Public Works, which is the crews that he manages. They're like the first responders. So if the trees go down, they're the ones that go in and clear the road so that the fire trucks and the police can actually get through.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of stuff that happens when a storm rolls through.
Yeah.
So the last time when Irma came through, Pat, George, and I were actually on a cruise together with a whole group of people. And my husband never would have been allowed to get off, but it was already planned. And so they were pretty mad because everybody had to work.
That's rough.
And he didn't. All right, Corey, tell the person listening, what do you do? What's your role?
So I'm the spokesperson for the fire department. We are one of the largest fire departments in the state, and we work every day to make sure that the residents of Pasco County stay safe. And we're also trying to, try some new innovative ideas and make sure that we can use the taxpayers' dollars wisely to make sure that they have the best coverage to keep their family safe.
So tell me what you mean by that.
How we're using the taxpayer dollars wisely?
Before that. Oh, wait a minute, it already escaped me.
Wait, no, you wanted to ask how they're more innovative at getting cats
That's
out
what
of
I was
trees.
going to ask.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's not
So we have
bad.
bigger ladders where we can put more firefighters to scare the cat. No,
Me too. Every time I get you together.
it is. It's fun every time. No, we're what we do is right now one of our biggest focuses on firefighter health and safety. So we have a lot of cancers. In fact, there's 16 different unique types of cancers to firefighters, and firefighters are already 80% more likely to have cancer in their life than anywhere else.
No, we talked about that before. It was so incredible.
Yeah, and we're thankful for the legislature that's passing some bills, not only with cancer but with PTSD awareness as well. So we're using that, and we're trying to not only use the taxpayer dollars wisely, but make sure that we're protecting our firefighters. So not only do we protect them on the front end by not getting cancer, but that also keeps our healthcare costs and cost of taxpayers down as well.
Sure, absolutely. And then, Francisco, tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your background? What do you do? What's your role as we roll into storm season?
Yeah, so I'm Francisco Diaz with Heaven Sent Construction, and my role is right now my primary focus is my roofing division. So coming into this season now, making sure everybody's prepared and know what type of roof system they have and what cautions they should take prior to coming into this season.
That's one of those things, like you're usually not thinking about your roof until you have a storm, you got some water coming in, then you're going to be thinking about the roof, right? But Leo, you can probably chime in on that because you deal with this stuff regularly. You see it during the inspection. So unless it changes hands, it's usually not something people are paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, I had an unfortunate client yesterday because we do work for attorneys on occasion to help with their storm claims, and this person had adopted a tile roof, and their home inspector didn't inspect the roof. So they had a roof leak a month after they moved in, and they were trying to tie it back to a storm event, and there was no storm event to tie it back to. So we ended up looking at the home inspection report and then what the current roof photos were, and yeah, we realized their home inspection company didn't inspect the roof, and that homeowner now needs to pay $60,000 to have the roof replaced. Tile roof is not cheap.
No, they're not. As a matter of fact, I saw something kind of similar a couple weeks ago. We actually negotiated a new roof to be replaced as part of the deal for a buyer that we represented. And what happened was the something happened, and the homeowner at that time, which was the buyer, the homeowner now, which was the buyer at that time, had it re-inspected, and they said, oh, this roof was not installed right. Of course, the seller paid for it, so they picked who was going to do it. And needless to say, the company was out of business, so all the numbers didn't work. So I did a little bit of homework, and I was able to actually find a lawsuit that was filed with them represented. And surprisingly enough, the attorney called me back, and then the guy called me back. I think they opened under another name, but they offered to do the repair.
Nice.
So, Leo, I gave them your information. I said, you might want to just have an independent inspection, being that they kind of botched it up the first time. Make sure they're doing it right the next time around. But if they're going to cover it under warranty, that's awesome, especially being they're not around.
Well, I know from the legal side of things, not a lawyer, but legal side of things, even if the roofer's out of business, if that CGL policy was in effect at the time, they can still go after the insurance even though there is no roofer. So
Good point. I didn't
Yeah.
think about that. And that's one of the things, once you start diving in with attorneys, you start thinking about that. But, hence, that's probably why when I started poking around and saw the lawsuit and talked to the attorney, the guy called us back. So, we're just looking to get them to cooperate and help fix the issue. But the whole thing started, they have a chimney with a fireplace, and it was reading wet around there. So it was something to do with the flashing. I don't really know all the details. You would more than I.
yeah, I mean, it's quite common. And Francisco, you can chime in here since you do a lot of roofing and wood frame repair, that basically the old Florida building code didn't really have much in the way of flashing where your chimney meets the roof. So what ends up happening there, Francisco?
Yeah, that's like the most common area for a leak is around those chimneys, and a lot of them are the old brick, so there's not really a way to flash it. So sometimes we have to cut into it and put a riglet on top with a polyurethane bead.
I like the way he talks.
I know. What's a riglet? Like the listener's going, what?
It's like a Z flashing. We call them Z flashings because they look like big Z's on the side of the building, like where stucco meets a roof wall or where chimney meets a roof wall. But they're really helpful in keeping water out. I mean, you definitely want like 2 or 3 inches of metal between your roof and that chimney.
Sure, absolutely. All right, listen, our off-air number is 813-377-2775. We got to roll to a quick break. You can call or text us at 813-377-2775. When we come back, we're going to talk about where to start and how to be prepared, especially if you're new to Florida. We'll be back in a minute.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo King with Barrel Engineering and Inspection, talking all about knowing disaster for knowing disaster. ING was not supposed to be there?
You did good enough. That'll work.
Good enough. This is Leo Kane. Good enough here on Tampa Home Talk. You're a
Stuck
host.
in a loop.
Are you making fun of me? I feel like you're making fun of me.
I'm making fun of me. I've been the host for the last 2 weeks. I'm just now poking fun at myself.
You did do all the work. Can you imagine if we left Pat George with him?
Oh, that would be awesome. Awesome.
Hey, Pat, if Leo doesn't come, then it's all you. You want to run the show?
I'll do a little bit of it. Yeah, I can handle that.
Producer, have you been to the Beasley studio?
Yeah.
So
The
we're
first,
from the other side of
actually,
the
the
block?
first time I was on the show with
Okay,
you, we were
okay.
over there in the closet.
It's a little different, dynamic right here to there. Can you imagine doing a show with Pat George and he's on the other side of the glass?
The thing I liked about when they came to the studio, they'd bring me breakfast. So what do I have this morning? Just gummy bears. So I put a bowl of gummy bears with some milk, and that's my breakfast.
We stopped bringing you breakfast at one time. There was a whole barbecue spread, and everyone in the station but us got to have some of it.
Well,
yes, I remember.
And he says they, but really it's Katrina that would bring him food. So
I miss all those days.
But they have open DoorDash, all those things. I'll have to give him some McDonald's.
But I'll be
right
with
there
you
for
next week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's going to happen I just found out. I
perfect
was never
timing.
told, but I just found out.
Good segue. Okay, so next week is Florida's largest home show. We are actually going to be there at the Florida's largest home show. We're going to be there all 4 days. So come on out and meet us. Come on out and check out some of the exhibitors. It's going to be at the Florida State Fairgrounds, and we are actually doing a remote broadcast from the fairgrounds next weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's going to be a blast.
And so, Pat, this is the perfect time for us to give out tickets for the home show because there's actually a cost to get in. I think they're like $8 a piece. Something like that. So I'm pushing for as many tickets as I can get for you guys. So if you're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not this weekend, but next weekend over Labor Day, one of those days, and you want some tickets, call on our studio lines here, and Pat George will take your information, 888-404-1010, 888-404-1010. Let's go ahead and take the 10th caller, shall we?
10th caller?
10th caller, 888-404-1010. I haven't given out that number in a while.
I know.
By memory. All right. So, Laura, let's talk all about some of the frequently asked questions you get. And so I'll run through them, and then you can just kind of jump in wherever you want. But part of the biggest thing you do is making sure people have a plan, knowing their zone, making a go-to kit, knowing where to find information, and registering for special needs. So start at the top. Where's the best place to start? Let's just imagine somebody's new to Florida, right?
Finding information. Know your hazards, knows what you're vulnerable to and where you live. That would be your top thing that you got to do. And you can find information. Every county has a disaster planning guide. Pasco County just revamped theirs. We go through every disaster or hazard that we could have in our county, and it gives tips on how to be prepared before, what to do during, how to respond after. And on the very back, we made it very simple to find phone numbers that you can call if you need further information.
Now, when you say know your zone, are you talking about the flood zone or are you talking about something else?
We're talking about evacuation zones. So evacuation zones are all about storm surge. So they have nothing to do with freshwater flooding or ponding that happens if a retention pond or something like that happens. This is all based off of Weather Service data that shows if we are getting this kind of storm coming through, we expect storm surge to come in this far off the coast.
So the evacuation route, I imagine, would route you around those things to where
They get you away
get out
from
of
the water
county.
that would come in.
Okay, perfect. Makes sense. And then the go-to kit, what are you recommending that people put in there?
It starts off having a supply of food and water, non-perishable food, canned food, jarred peanut butter, things like that. If you have canned food, make sure you have a can opener. The manual one, because if if electricity's out, your electric one won't work.
Isn't there an app for that?
I think so. Yeah.
An app.
With water, we've been talking for years about having a 3-day supply. Things that we've noticed after Hurricane Michael came in through the Panhandle, we're starting to preach have a 7 to 10 day supply if you can.
That's what I was thinking. I've lived here my whole life, just like you, Francisco. We were talking about that. How much do you if you know a storm's coming in? How much food do you stock up on?
Well, I'm like super prepared. I live like on 50 acres on a farm.
So you got all kinds of chickens.
I have a whole pallet of waters. So
Okay.
I have my own gas station. I have a couple 100 gallons of
Wow.
fuel.
We're coming to your
So
house,
I'm
okay?
excited.
No, he's got
We're not on a boat.
Have you seen his family? He's got like a 2-day supply. All of that's a 2-day
How
supply.
many kids do you have?
5 kids.
Wow, okay.
But
So-
plenty of cattle, so we have enough meat.
Say
There you go.
about a week, and that's just me living through a storm, not having power for a week, right?
Right.
In 2004, when we had the back-to-back storms, I remember that. You couldn't even go to a hotel because they didn't have electricity either, or the ones that did were booked.
Exactly. So some of the other things is when you're buying supplies, you don't have to do it all in one shopping trip. You know, you can be doing this throughout the year. Look at your pantry, what you already have. You don't need to go out and buy it specifically for storm season. This is all things that you can just have on hand.
Yeah, have something you can make, have something you can grill.
Yeah.
Propane tanks would be really good. Like, we would have hurricane parties. So, when my husband would leave, he'd be gone at work. And so the power was out. We didn't know how long it was going to be restored. We would start cooking everything in the freezer. So we literally fed the firefighters, the stormwater crews. We
Oh,
fed
nice.
everybody. Well, I mean, you don't want it to go bad, and you guys are working, so why not? It doesn't make
Absolutely.
sense, right?
Well,
Absolutely.
my favorite preparedness tip is eat your ice cream first. You know,
There
if
you
the electricity's
go.
going to go out.
Do the ice cream first. It makes sense. All right. So, what outside of water, non-perishable foods, maybe flashlight? What else do you think are the most important things?
You need to have things that you can use to take care of yourself. So if you're on prescription medication, talk to your doctor early. Go to your pharmacist early. You know, find out what meds you have to have. A lot of times you could go to a 90-day supply. But that's all talking to your doctor. If you have kids, make sure you have entertainment like board games, books, cards, things like that.
I know it sounds horrible, but the times that the power does go out, it doesn't seem like it's really long enough. I actually like it. I enjoy it because we don't get those times really now. We just don't get the disconnected times. Stop looking at me like I have two heads. You don't have any kids, so you can't even comment about this. But in this day and age, especially kids, are so connected to their cell phones and their devices. So just to have the power go out, right? At dinner time for 2 hours, I think is really a blessing because you could really just spend that time with your kids, playing a game, playing cards, doing something that they can't be on their phone, especially if it's dead, right?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
it's and the Wi-Fi or the internet's down. In the storm, sometimes even the cell phone signals go down. So it's count it as a blessing. I'm sure it's old after a week, right? But just with every what is it? With every detriment, there's a blessing. I'm not saying that quite right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's the other part that you want to also pay attention to is your furry family.
Yes.
Making sure your pets need food and water too.
They might get what you get.
Right.
There's no power for a
Play
week.
spin the bottle.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
but they'll definitely eat cat, really.
Oh boy.
All right, so
By the way,
one of the
that did
last
not go
things.
over the air.
What'd you say? Okay. Registering for special needs. I didn't listen to my own tip I gave you guys. Registering for special needs, what does that mean?
So if you're oxygen dependent or you need extra assistance with transportation,
Okay.
have other severe health complications that you're going to need extra assistance during a storm, you could register for the county special needs program. If you have internet, you could go to the Pasco County Emergency Management webpage and register online. You can call up the county customer service phone number, which is 727-847-2411, or you can even call emergency management and we can help you with that process of registration.
So that's great. Now, when somebody registers, do they get alerts or text messages?
We have a different system for that. That's
Okay.
called Alert Pasco that you can register for online through the Pasco County Emergency Management website. And that's where if there is an emergency going off in an area, we can do a geographical grid on the numbers that we contact there, or we could do a whole county blast and get information out quickly.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you another devil's advocate type question, right? So what about times like now where there's no storm? What do you do?
So now's the time to be preparing, making that
Okay.
plan. If you have to evacuate, where are you going to go?
But what do you do specifically, in your job?
We are currently going through planning,
Okay.
checking with all of our partner agencies to make sure that they support and can follow the plan. Then we take the plans and that we train on them to make sure that they are viable and can work. Then we go into an exercise to validate everything.
Okay.
And it's a constant cycle that we're preparing. We're making sure we have resources on hand. We're busy.
No better validation than right in the moment, right? So I'm sure you tweak some stuff after.
We don't want to be finding out things in the moment, so we try and prepare beforehand to know any type of gaps that we have to overcome.
Sure. All right. So let's stick with our number one question that we had, and I can roll it to you, Francisco. How do you prepare your home for a hurricane starting from the roof down? So you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people want to take a look at their roof when they have an issue, but not a lot of people want to be proactive and do preventive maintenance. And so my advice would be, to call a roofing contractor like myself, and most of us will come out and give you a free estimate or a free assessment. Or, you could call Barrel Engineering as well, for a cost and get that checked out as well. That way you can see if there's any variables.
Can you give us an idea of a couple things to look for? Like if I'm a homeowner and I just kind of want to peek at something on my roof, is there something I should be seeing or noticing that I definitely need to have somebody come check it out?
Yeah, the most common thing you'll see is you'll see missing shingles. So when you see missing shingles, you'll know that your roof system is getting older, and more than likely your shingles are going to be flying off your roof system, which is going to be compromised. And
definitely if there's missing shingles. Anything else?
What do you think, Leo?
It's the simple things. I mean, you look for a lot of granule loss. So if you have, if you're taking the plants out of your gutters and you see all these granules and your shingles,
pebble-looking
things, and your shingles look like they're losing all their things and they're starting to cup up like a fishbowl. Yeah, it's time to get a new roof.
Yeah. All right, so when we come back, we're going to ping it over to you, Leo, and talk about how houses are built specifically to withstand hurricanes. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back. Go ahead, Leo.
No, I was letting you do it. I did the other two intro ins. I guess you wanted me to do the third one. Welcome back.
We're Adam this week.
Oh, that is true. He normally takes us in with an insurance tip of the week. Now, Adam's Tally insurance tip of the week that's related to this storm.
Did he leave you one?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, go.
Yeah, so this is Adam Tally's insurance tip of the week. Make sure you have insurance.
There you go.
Seriously.
I mean, that's it. Look, we're talking all about storms and stuff. If your house gets damaged, you need to make sure you have insurance, and make sure someone like Adam Tally is taking a look at it to make sure you have the proper coverages before the event actually happens.
So I got to tell you a story. When I was in Austin last week, I was actually dealing with something similar, and this was so subtle, and I was so busy, running around, I almost missed it. But I got this bill, and it actually wasn't Adam. He looked at my homeowners and said, no, stick where you're at. I think it's better, because kind of like a grandfathered in policy. But I get this random bill for $84, and I call, and I'm like, why do I have this bill for $84? So I don't escrow for taxes and insurance. I pay my own. And so they're like, the agent's like, I don't know. I have no idea. And I go, well, can you find out? Because you're just sending me a bill for $84.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say what it's for. She's like, sure. So she calls and she says, well, they canceled your homeowner's insurance for non-payment. I said, what? You took the payment with me 2 weeks over the phone. I gave you all my information to debit it. She said, well, they're saying your bank returned it. They didn't do it. And I said, what? How can that be? She goes, I don't know, because I put everything in and it doesn't take it if your information's not accurate. I said, well, let's call the bank. So I called the bank and I said, listen, they're saying that this amount was returned, but I don't see where it ever even cleared my bank. So it's like it wasn't presented. And she says, yeah, we don't see anything on our end either. And so then they made me sign something saying that my house basically wasn't damaged.
Oh, jeez.
So they could reinstate me. And it was like an ordeal. I was out of town, so I had to call my assistant to pick up a cashier's check because I'm in Austin. I don't have any checks or anything.
Yeah.
And they made us overnight it. It was crazy. I was so mad. I was like, I don't even know how that could happen, but I guess lesson to me: pay your insurance a month early. So
and that's your tip of the week for the Adam Tally Insurance.
So that relates to the tip, which is exactly why I said it. Can you imagine if we were in the middle of storm season and I had no idea, right? I was out of town. I didn't notice this $84 bill, and now I don't have insurance because something happened with the way you guys took the payment over the phone.
Also, if the storm is named and in the Atlantic, you won't bind coverage. So
well, it was a renewal, and I paid before the renewal. So.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you owe them any money, and they're delinquent, and there's some storm, or you're trying to get a new policy, and there's some storm floating around out there, they will not bind the coverage.
I have a feeling if something like that happened, it would have been something for our dear friend Erin Donovan.
Of course.
She's
Attorney
an
at law.
attorney that deals with this kind of stuff. When you pay your insurance company and somehow they don't renew your policy.
I'm having a problem this year with the IRS. They seem to have lost the check I gave them.
Sue Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Pat. I want to actually announce our winner for the home show tickets. Sue, thank you for listening to Tampa Home Talk. Thanks for your feedback with Pat George. We're glad you love the show. If you got an idea for something that you want to know about, let us know, and we will bring some expert guests on to talk all about it. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. So if you want to let us know about a show or somebody we should have on, we would love to hear from you. 813-377-2775. And we're going to also give away some more home show tickets if you just text home show to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. So, our house is built to withstand hurricanes, Leo?
It just depends. I mean,
when they were built.
It depends when they were built and how much metal they've added to the wood and concrete. So a lot of technology has gone into something called the strap or the clip, and it's where your roof meets the wall. It's where your first floor meets your second floor. It's how many nails you put in the shingle. It's all the metal that's attached to your house. And Francisco can talk more about this. In Florida, you used to only be able to put 4 nails in each shingle. But now how many nails do you put in?
6 nails.
Yeah, and it used to be where you could put staples to put your plywood down to your trusses. You used to just be able to put staples. Now what do you have to do?
Now we have to put nails, 6-minute nails, 6 inches on center.
So not only do we have to use nails now, we have to use a certain size of nail. And then also when you're retrofitting these older houses like City of Tampa, if the house is worth a certain amount of money, what do they make you do at the trusses at the roof to wall when you're re-roofing?
They make you put the clips in.
Yeah, so basically
describe the clips. What do they look like?
Some of them look like L's, and some of them look like twisty ties. That's a good description.
That is a pretty good
Am I wrong?
description.
No, that's right.
Yeah, and that's what's going to keep your roof on. Also, we've gotten a long ways as far as impact rating. So your windows need to be able to withstand 9-pound missiles. They're called missiles, but they're not. Basically, it's a stick that's moving with a force of 9 pounds. Has to be able to bounce off your window. Oh, what's skylights now? 4.5?
That's correct.
Yeah, so you got to.
I wish Adam was here. I would ask him about the windows. I would say, what happens if you don't have those hurricane windows because your house was built before and a storm knocks them in? Does insurance cover it? They probably do.
They would. Yeah, they would. Yeah, it's just the way the Florida Building Code works is when you upgrade your house, where you do substantial improvements to your house, then you have to bring the house all up to code. So you can just grandfather your way in and have this super long beard of like a house that'll blow away in the storm.
And by the way, make sure when you're getting work done, you get permits and make sure they close those permits out. We had a guy that actually came in yesterday. There used to be a roofing company here in this building, and he was looking for the roofing company. I'm like, I have no idea. Call this guy. He might know. And by the way, call this guy. We okayed if you need to get that permit closed out because you have to send an engineer to close those permits out once they're open. So it's interesting because we never had that in our contracts, which is what dictates that work, right? Mm-hmm. Then we had a mandatory open permit search and municipal lien search to see if like they have extra water bills or power bills open they need to pay. And now it's like if the buyer checks for it. So that's why you guys are seeing less of those. Did you notice?
Yeah, I noticed.
That you see less than you used to?
It's just crazy because with the realtors and us, they're usually the first call. Why didn't you find this? I'm like, well, we weren't looking for it.
So talking about flooding, because we really touched on that really briefly, but how do you actually prepare your house for flooding? How do you know if you should prepare your house for flooding? And then what do you do if your house actually starts flooding?
If you live in Florida, you should prepare for flooding.
There you go.
Doesn't matter if you live in a flood zone or not. It's always recommended that, back to insurance, you have flood insurance policy. It takes 30 days for a flood insurance policy to go into effect, so you want to get it
There's another
well in
tip for Adam
advance.
Talley.
There you go.
Adam Talley tip of the week. Your flood insurance takes up to 30 days to go into effect, so don't wait until the height of the rainy season to get your flood insurance. Call Adam Talley today.
Oh, perfect. He would love it.
And this goes back to having a plan. You know, you live in Florida. Flooding is a possibility. Having Rubbermaid bins if you need to be able to pack up any special belongings so that you could evacuate quickly. If you're experiencing floodwater coming up into your house right away, you can always call emergency management, call 911 if you need help evacuating. But the big thing is to get out. Run from the water, hide from the wind.
So water's coming in your home. What do you recommend? Like just leave, don't do anything else?
Well, it's calling up and making a notification. Let the county know. Pasco County is very responsive. If there is something that we can do, we'll definitely get out there and help with where we can.
It reminded me of this. It wasn't related to a storm, but I was in Orlando actually for a training, and I had a rental property that was under contract, and the appraiser was going out there to do the appraisal inspection on the house, and this phone number is like blowing me up. I'm in a class, really not supposed to leave, and it just calls back to back to back to back to back. So I finally, like after the 4th time, I'm like, let me step out and grab this call. So I grab the call, and this guy goes, I'm an appraiser. I'm at 123 Main Street, and you have a flood. The house has about a foot of water in it. What do you want me to do? And I said, open the door, maybe? That might be a good start. Polybutylene pipes. Polybutylene pipe busted, and it really took everything away. So we gave the buyer the option to either get out or stay in, and we redid everything real nice for the next buyer because they canceled.
Oh,
so
no.
It was all right, though, because we went from laminate floors to nice wood plank tile. And
There you go.
So, and the kicker of that one is it was a rental property. I literally did not renew my insurance about, 3 weeks before it was supposed to close. The policy was supposed to renew. And I'm like, it's 3 weeks. I'll wait and, it's closing in 3 weeks. I don't need to renew the policy. So guess who got to pay for all that?
Oh, no.
Anyway, so renew your policy. Even if you got a day before closing, I would suggest renewing it.
And then if you have a plumbing pipe break, the biggest advice I could give you is know where your water main is and turn the thing off. Yeah, what do you want me to do? Go to the street and turn the little knob.
Well, this was a townhome, so I don't think they really knew where to even look. But yeah, that's what we said. Can you turn it off? Can you turn it off at the main thing, wherever it is? Where is it? I don't know. Can you find it? Is that something the county could help with? Like if you didn't know where to find it and you called them, could they locate it, you think?
Depending on what it is, you can get in touch with the water department. They may know where it is. They can send a representative out to kind of help you out. It may take a little longer while you're stressed in there and your house is filling with water, but ultimately they can usually help you out and let you know where the mains are.
Some of the questions that we get during the show, and we ask them on the air, and then we get some stuff in advance, but somebody wants to know, can a container home withstand hurricanes?
Can a container home withstand
I think they're talking
hurricanes?
about like the
you got this one?
the shipping containers, right?
Yeah,
Is that what
right.
you're talking about?
Those are getting more popular.
I mean, it all comes back to as metal and strapping. I mean, the shipping containers need to be set onto bearing plates, and at the
Okay,
bearing.
what's a bearing plate? Slow down, describe it.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
so
gotta-
what you
those
do is you
bearing
pour your
You don't
slab.
know what it is either, right?
No idea.
You pour your slab like you would for a normal house,
Okay.
except in certain places you have red steel plates, and those are called bearing plates.
Like,
And-
are they flat? Are they round?
well,
What are
they're
they?
flat. They're on the ground, and
Okay.
basically you attach the steel container to those bearing plates.
Oh,
And then also for most of them, you're putting together two steel kits, and then the top of the steel kit becomes your roof deck. So you put roofing on top of that. So that
have
would be.
you done one of those?
I have not, but I've seen them come up.
Yeah, I mean they're getting more popular. It's very affordable housing. So
How big are those things? Like, how many square footage? Do you know roughly the advertised one?
8 feet wide by 40 foot deep is an average.
Yeah, they can be anywhere from 300 to 600 square feet. And then you can
That's a
put
tiny home.
two together. But yeah, I mean it's all about your fastening and your wind loading. It's all about wind loading.
So some of the other questions we get to is how do you survive a Cat 4 hurricane, and where do you go during the hurricane? Thoughts?
On a cruise.
On a cruise,
On a cruise.
definitely on a cruise.
Not on a
I
cruise.
tell you, no, really, I would highly recommend them. Just saying, because it was not planned, but it worked out like that. And it was like a 3,500 passenger ship, and there was only about 900 people on it.
Oh, no
'Cause we were a
kidding.
mandatory hurricane evacuation. We didn't feel anything in the water at all. There was plenty of food. The drink service was awesome. We never had to wait for a drink or wait in line for anything. Just something
way to
you should
do it.
think about if you live here.
There you go.
Like you'll literally probably, Pat, wouldn't you say you'll pay taxes and port charges only? Don't you think?
Pretty close to that.
Yeah, I think you can get a cruise super cheap.
Nice.
I mean, well, your house will be there or it won't when you come back, and you just file a claim if it's not.
There you go.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
that's the way I look at it. Some people freak out and they're like, oh. So when do you recommend people stay versus not? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
If your house is going to be impacted by storm surge or other type of flooding, evacuate. If you have a house that is vulnerable to high winds, evacuate.
All right. Well, you'll see Tampa Home Talk when we come back right after the break. We'll talk a little bit more to Corey. We'll talk about when you guys have to go door to door and kick people out.
Absolutely.
All
I
right.
want to hear that.
Our off-air number is 813-377-2775, 813-377-2775, and we're going to talk about a couple new listings not yet on the market when we get back.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. Got some exciting news if you live in the southeast coast of Florida, and if you're going to be traveling northeast from the southeast coast of Florida over the weekend.
Are you stealing Corey's thunder?
I'm not stealing thunder. I said we have some exciting
There
news.
may be thunder involved, though. No.
What is this exciting
So you
news?
got a very timely alert, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, not so exciting, but I guess the National Hurricane Center is now saying there's a 70% chance of a tropical depression starting late Friday night through the weekend. So we could be seeing more heavy rains around eastern Florida and central Florida. So
Which means it should be dry here.
hopefully we could use it. I'll tell you,
A nice weekend for boating.
there's exactly. There's a lot of streams and tributaries. That's another thing that emergency management does that people don't realize is they don't just do hurricanes. They're an all hazard. So they work with us on anything from if a tanker truck was to catch on fire on the interstate down to hazmat situations, hazmat scenes, fuel spills, anything. And when we were talking about earlier about the Emergency Operations Center and what they do, if you can imagine a giant room with every single arm of the government. So we have, 57 lines of business here in Pasco. So you have the top representatives from those 57 lines of business in the same room. And that's what Laura does, is she's the conductor of all those lines of business that are out clearing the roads and giving reports or
Very
fire
well
rescue.
explained.
And she has a pretty cool job. It's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, I would say so. How long you been doing it for Pasco?
15 for Pasco, just 3 years, but I've been in this business for 15 years. I started off in Katrina.
Oh, yeah, like,
Just a little one. I don't know if
you
you
know,
heard of this.
well, I was actually making a joke because I saw it on the named list that year, and I'm like, oh, look, Katrina's on there. And so I started, like, cracking jokes before it even formed. Like, the storm didn't even form. And I'm like, oh, wait, Katrina, she's going to be a doozy. Just wait. And then the next thing I know, the storm was, like, bigger than the size of Florida. I'm like,
And then
okay,
she
I wasn't
retired.
kidding. Yeah, for
Yeah, she got to
sure.
retire. Just one appearance, and that was it. One and done.
Oh man, I tell you, I was working in news at the time and was in New Orleans for all that, and it definitely deserved to be retired. It was
devastating.
yeah.
Yeah. We got a lot of relocation people from New Orleans to here.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally when I would meet them, I'd say, really nice to meet you. You probably don't want to know my name, but you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, what can you say? Like, a storm with my name just wiped out their city and now they're here. Like, what am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah.
Temporarily change your name to Kat?
No, I don't like Kat. I'm just
Yeah.
Katrina.
Yeah.
Or Rena?
No.
Just
Katrina. So let me give you guys some stats real quick. Let's go over the July housing numbers because those are out. And since I was out the week before last, I actually didn't go over quarter two, but I'll do those next hour. So the July housing stats for 2019, closed sales are actually up 8.7%. And so we pull single family homes in the greater Tampa Bay area. So these numbers are going to include Hernando County, Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough. So that's what they consider the greater Tampa Bay area. And the closed sales are up 8.7%.
All right.
Cash sales are actually down 5.2%, if you can believe that. And our average sales price is up 6.6%. Our dollar volume is also up as well. So we had $1.3 billion in July of 2018. We're up to $1.5 billion in July of 2019 in closed sales, which means we're up 15.8%, which means our prices are moving up as well. Median time to contract. So we went up about a day. So 26 days is the average time to contract. Median time to sale, so that's from the time you hit the market to the time you actually sign your paperwork, is 70 days. New pending sales for July, meaning they hit the market and now they have a contract, 4,761. And new listings, 5,256 new listings hit the market in July. And our pending inventory, which is still a bigger number, that's always a good sign that our market's still hot. So pending houses that actually went under contract, 6,270. And our inventory, the number of active listings we have is 10,716. So that's what we call our absorption rate, which means if no more houses came on the market based on the current buyers and the ones we have on the market, it would take exactly 2.6 months to sell everything we had.
This is interesting. So paid in cash is down, which means that more retail buyers and less investors are actually involved right now in the market.
And that makes sense, right? Think about where we're at. Prices are higher. The question we get a lot of times is, we're going to go back to a bubble. The market's going to crash. I'm going to wait for the next crash. We get that all the time because people are so afraid about the last, really, I think it was more than a it was a modern day depression.
Great recession.
Because, the dynamics are different than they were in the 30s or 20s when they had the Great Depression. More and more people were employed versus self-employed. So now think about it, your self-employed people, they're not really getting a lot of those community handouts and that kind of stuff. So the numbers show that basically they're higher than what were reported, but it was really close to a Great Depression. And actually we almost had a global housing crash. There was a book I read called Collusion by Naomi Prinz. She talked all about how that housing crash affected global markets. It's a pretty interesting book. A lot of numbers, a lot of stats. Some people might not like it. It can be a hard read for some. But it's really good information in there. And my answer to people when they ask me, we're going to have a crash again, I'm going to wait for that. No, we're not. Something major would have to happen, right, in order for that to happen again, which like war, right, something like that we can't really control. But the difference that we're seeing is the regulation was stupid. Like the loans that banks were making back then, they never would make. They never would have made those loans. Wall Street pushed them to loosen guidelines, which is why they made the loans. So now the common sense underwriting is back. The normal stuff is in. So the people that are buying in the market are actually qualified. They're real buyers or they have cash. So that's why we're not going to see what we saw before. Are we going to see a normal real estate cyclical dip? Absolutely. It's part of the ebbs and flows that happens about every 10 years. Mm-hmm. So we are on a pretty, we've had a really long stretch, right, of a seller's market for a really long time. A balanced market is somewhere around 6 months normal is what they consider balanced, right? Meaning it's not it's not a buyer's market, it's not a seller's market, it's kind of like in the middle. And now they're saying because we've been such a strong seller's market for so long, it's more like 4 months. And our absorption rate is only 2.6 right now. So it's still a seller's market. If you're thinking about selling, now's a great time to do that. The other little thing that we didn't talk about, we probably should, is rates actually dipped. So that was not expected. I think everybody expected the feds to actually hike the rates a little because that's what they have to balance the economy if we go south. That's how they can strengthen buying. So if you're a buyer or you're a seller, now's a great time because rates are probably lower than you're ever going to see. And it's a great time for sellers because you're going to get the best market price you can get right now. So, yes, real buyers in the market, Leo.
Nice. I'm excited. Yeah, we had a very busy summer, so I can't wait to talk about the quarterly. But, yeah, I like that stat where you got more cash buyers out of the market, which means we have more retail buyers in. And this music bed means we've run out of time.
The only thing that's down is the cash buyers, 5.2%. Overall, everything's up. All right, you're listening to Tampa Home Talk, and if you want some more fun information like that, you can call me at 813-377-2775, 813-377-2775. Thank you, guys, to all my guests.
Thank you.
I have more questions. I could easily spend another hour with you all, but I appreciate you here. And again, this is Tampa Home Talk. Stick around for hour number 2. We got another great show lined up. Love where you live, or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.